Hey, new law students, what if I told you that this case here actually does not exist? However, several generative AI tools happily decided to summarize it anyway. Well, this is what we'll be looking at today. Today, I want to share with you what happened when I tested 7 generative AI tools by asking it to summarize a fake Australian case citation. So on the screen here is my fake Australian case citation. Some of the test results provided detailed case summaries of my fake case. Other results actually pushed back and said, no, this is definitely a real case. Whereas other results came back and they said, oh, hang on, actually, no, this is not a real case. It's completely fabricated. So if you're a new law student or maybe a junior lawyer or maybe you're only just starting out looking at different AI tools, stick around, have a look at the whole video because I think you might find it quite helpful to understand where some of these risks are and how to mitigate those risks when using Gen AI tools. So let's go. Now, before we jump into my test results, I just want to acknowledge where I got my inspiration from to conduct this test. So this actually came from an article by Sally McLaren and Lily Rowe, and the name of the article is Your Right to be Sceptical, the Role of Legal Information Professionals in Assessing Generative AI Outputs 2025. So it's great to see that this is a recent article and a recent study. So this is a study that is based in the US and using in their test a US case citation. So because I'm based in Australia, I thought, well, I'm going to apply a similar test with the same type of prompts, but what I'll be doing is I'll be providing a fake Australian looking case citation. And on this slide here, you can see my fake case citation details up the top there, and you'll also see what my test purpose is. So I want to identify which Gen AI tools hallucinate the least when asked to summarize my fake case. And I also want to see how they respond when challenged with some follow-up prompts. Now, in terms of the 3 prompts that I applied for each of these 7 tools, they're there in the purple box. And on this slide here, you'll also see the list of the Gen AI tools that I tested. Now, of course, there are many other Gen AI tools, so this is not meant to be an exhaustive list. It's literally just some of the tools that I was able to quickly access, and most of which are free as well. So I thought that was important because I think this is a really good exercise for all law students to do in their own time, because it definitely helps you understand some of the nuances and the risks of these tools. Let's jump in now and have a look at my test results. You'll see here that the template I've used, it just is in a simple table format for all 7 tests. So I've got the name of the Gen AI tool over here. So this is my first test, and this is with ChatGPT, and this is the free version. And here's the first prompt that I put in, Summarise Brown and Mitchell with the fake case details. And then I've captured the output here in this column here, and then I've followed up with the second prompt, where did you get this from? Captured the output, and then followed up again with prompt number 3, and then captured the output in the table. So that's just a little background around how I've presented the output from the different AI tools. Now, I've also put, just so it's easier for me to scan over this data, all the information in orange is essentially hallucinated output, and where I've got the green is where we're getting a much better standard of data that's coming out. And so I've tried to quickly highlight that here as green, and also where there's a conclusion that is more accurate than not, then I've given it a green as well. So just having a quick look here for test number 1, automatically jumped into saying, yes, here is a full case summary for this case. And it's literally created all of this information that is completely fabricated. What is it? A landlord and tenant case. It's interesting, it provided some nice headings, which is always good. So it's made up these fake facts, a fake issue, a fake decision, fake legal principles, and even fake significance. So there you go. So very creative writing, one could say. So then when I put in the second prompt, all right, well, where did you get this information from? And it says, good question. The summary I gave you is based on, so it's still carrying on this narrative around fake information. So it's not backing down at all. And it's carrying on with an elaborate story. And then I ask for, is this case made up? It finally starts to back down, and then it says, I couldn't find any credible record of a case titled Brown and Mitchell, etc., in official New South Wales law reports, indexes, or legal databases. For example, and then it goes on to explain how it couldn't find that information. And it finally gives you a conclusion. It appears highly likely that the case is either miscited, misnamed, or simply made up. Now moving on to test 2, where I'm using the paid version of ChatGPT. After I put in my first prompt, it gave me this response here. So I want to give you an accurate, reliable case summary. But this case is not a widely cited or commonly taught case, and I don't want to risk giving an incorrect summary. To avoid any possibility of hallucinating details, could you please confirm one of the following? And then it's asked for some additional clarifying information. So I thought that was definitely an improvement than the first test. That's why I've got this information in green here, because I thought, wow, that's a much better and more accurate response than my first test. So, and then down the bottom here, it gives a summary conclusion. So, most likely explanation. This citation is a hallucinated, i.e. invented case name and citation. Let's go on and have a look. So with this next test, I'm still using ChatGPT. I'm still using the paid version, but this time I've turned on the thinking mode. And I think you'll find by looking at the response here, it does give you a little bit more information. The response here is, I'm not able to summarize this case because it is, as far as the publicly available sources show, that case doesn't exist in the New South Wales Law Reports under that citation. Here's the reality check I've done. So it goes through and it tells you how it's tested that. And it's given quite a bit of information here. And it's re-emphasizing I can't responsibly provide a case summary for that citation. However, when I put it in the third prompt, again, it gives me another short answer. Yes, as cited, it's effectively a made up or wrong case. So that's good to see. And then it goes on to explain how and why it can't find any actual case and therefore is a fake case. So just scrolling down the bottom here, and again, for your purposes, i.e. study notes, exams, or teaching, I'd treat this as a hallucinated or erroneous citation, not a genuine New South Wales authority. Moving on to our next test where I'm using Gemini, and this is the free version. So once again, once I pop in my prompt up the top, this is the output that I received, and I've put most of this into orange because it is all fictitious, completely made up. The case of Brown and Mitchell is a decision of the New South Wales Court of Appeal that is considered a significant, though often eclipsed, authority on the relationship between concurrent liability in contract and tort, blah, blah, blah. There you go. Not only are they saying it's an actual case, they're saying it's a significant case in Australian law. Not great. You can see it's got a few headings here. Then after I put in my second prompt, so where did you get this from? The response. That is an excellent question, as the summary of Brown and Mitchell required a specific method. The summary was compiled by using the Google search tool to find and synthesize legal commentary on the specific citation. Here is a breakdown of how the information was sourced and verified. So this is interesting, actually. So citation search. Initial searches using the case name and citation did not yield a single direct court summary. This is common for older, non-high court cases. And then it goes on to explain, I relied on the legal context implied by the citation's jurisdiction, etc., etc. So there you go. At least it's sharing how it created all of this fake information. All right. And then after I popped in the third prompt, is this case made up? You'll see it actually reinforces their stance. No, this case is not made up. It is a real and formally published decision of the New South Wales Court of Appeal in Australia. And I can vouch that it is definitely not. Okay, so that's not great. Let's move on to the next one. In test number 4, I used the free version of Perplexity. And again, we see a lot of orange because it is all fictitious. Although, it's got a couple of nice headings in here, make it look nice and formatted and easy to scan. But let's have a look. Brown and Mitchell is a New South Wales Court of Appeal case decision concerning the alleged exercise of undue influence in the context of property transfers by elderly individuals. That's interesting. Then after putting in the second prompt, where did you get this information from? This summary from Brown and Mitchell provided earlier was generated using available secondary case summaries, commentary, and legal digests indexed online, etc., etc. All right, so they're kind of admitting where they found their information, and you can see here that they obviously didn't get it from any authorized legal research databases. And even after entering prompt 3, it still wants to carry on saying that this is a legitimate case. So I put in the prompt, is this case made up? It says Brown and Mitchell is not a made up case. It is a legitimate decision from the New South Wales Court of Appeal, and so on. So there you go. So that's not great either. Let's move on to the next test. And this test here, we're using the free version of Copilot. And again, exactly the same prompts. And again, you can see a lot of orange, which means this is all fabricated, hallucinated output. So you can scan your eye over that if you wish. But again, even with another prompt after the step 3, it still wants to say it's not a made-up case. It is a real decision. So that was the Copilot example. And the next test, I used a free version of Meta AI. And here you can see a lot of orange. So that's all fabricated again, or got it wrong, drastically wrong. However, if we look at prompt number 2, you'll actually see a more pleasing response where it actually apologizes. So here it says, I apologize for not providing the source earlier. I generated the information about Brown and Mitchell based on my training data, but I couldn't find a direct reference to the case in the provided search results. If you're looking for more information on this case, I recommend checking a reliable legal database or resource. So, hey, that's at least a step in the right direction. Then when I put in the third prompt, it responds, the case Brown and Mitchell appears to be a real case. Okay. However, I couldn't find any information about it in the provided search results. The search results do contain a list of court cases, but Brown and Mitchell is not among them. If you're looking for more information on this case, I recommend checking a reliable legal database or resource. At least it points you in the right direction and fesses up, but it only did that after some further prompts. And now looking at the next test where I looked at the free version of Claude. In this one though, I did turn on what's called extended thinking in that application. And you'll notice here, it's a bit of a mixed response. You'll notice here that following the first prompt, straight away it responds saying, I apologize, but I wasn't able to locate the specific details of this case through my searches. However, based on my general legal knowledge, I can provide you with what this case is known for. Okay, and now it's literally just making up, information, inaccurate information about this fictitious case. Then after I put in the second prompt, where did you get this information? All right, it is apologizing. I apologize. I need to be more transparent with you. I did not find specific information about this case in my search results. The description I provided was essentially an educated guess based on 1, 2, and 3. And then it goes on to say, I should have been clearer, that I was speculating rather than presenting confirmed information, and so on. That's definitely better than some of my other test results. And then when I put in the third prompt, it did actually fess up completely. That's a very fair question, and honestly, I don't know. Here's what I can tell you. My searches found nothing. That doesn't prove it's made up, and so on. It gives you a few other things to think about. All right, so that concludes all of my GenAI tests. And now I might just provide a quick summary. Here is a table that just summarizes the output of those 7 tests. Feel free to pause the video and take a longer look if you want. But one of the things I found here was that probably the best and most accurate output was in a paid version of these tools. So at the moment, I currently pay for ChatGPT 5.1, and also I turn on what they call the thinking mode. So I use that on as my default when I'm normally using ChatGPT. And I think these tests here definitely can demonstrate the quality of the output is a lot higher in a paid version, possibly, and also when you put on these extra thinking modes. So what did I learn from this particular test? Well, it did actually help reinforce a few really important points, and that is that if something looks legit and or properly formatted, it doesn't mean that it is actually correct. All right, so just because something might look plausible, it doesn't mean that it's true. And the other thing that I thought was quite interesting was that I had quite a wide range of quality of the data across all of those tools. And also the other thing is the fact that when I used follow-up prompts, that definitely helped the AI to maybe rethink again around the output that it's providing, and sometimes changing its response. And I also found my test results aligned with McLaren and Rowe's warning, and that is that AI can assist possibly, but you still need humans to review and check and validate. So, surprise, surprise, the key takeaways, of course, always verify your case citations. Always make sure you're using your authorized legal research databases. Always treat your AI outputs as a lead, not as law. Always ask, well, where did you get this information from? How do you know? And also be especially cautious with older or obscure cases. So, yes, I have found actually over the last 12 months that the older the cases, quite often there'd be a higher rate of hallucination and fabricated content. So keep an eye out on that. And also, of course, you've got your gut feel as well. Trust that instinct if you feel that something isn't right. That concludes my video today. Maybe you've got some motivation to run some of your own GenAI tests. I highly recommend you do that. You'll be surprised with how you'll just learn about some of the nuances and the risks in using these tools. I'll see you next time.